Stanley Duing. My branch of service was the Navy. My rank, I was an E5, which is known as a second-class petty officer. As a kid, I used to run with the volunteer fire district there in Hematite, Missouri. And in Hematite, they had a fire district that at that time needed medical, so I went to EMT school and served with them. And then when I joined the Navy, they asked if I had any licensures. I said I have an EMT license, and that's when I went into being a corpsman with the Navy. I went to Great Lakes in Illinois. That's where the boot camp was, and right across the railroad tracks from that was where the Corps school was. So when I graduated boot camp, I just went straight over there. At the end of the Corps school, of course, then they assign you your duty stations, and they had set me up for Portsmouth Naval Hospital in Virginia. This is back in 1985. For my first 3 years, I'd be working at Portsmouth Naval Hospital. And when I got there, that question came up again, do you have any licensures? And I said, yes, I have an EMT license. You're going to work emergency room. So my whole 3-year tour down there, I worked in the emergency room at Portsmouth Naval. So for my reserve duty, I ended up coming up here to St. Louis, right across from the airport. And they assigned me to the Fleet Hospital. And I did the Fleet Hospital roughly for about a year or two. And I didn't get along with the nurses too well. And I didn't like the way that their training was going. So I went upstairs and I said, is there other units that need corpsmen? And yes, we're forming up a new one for the USS Missouri. I said, I'll take that. I got transferred into the USS Missouri, and I did the tour on the Missouri, went to the Gulf, and got to see the new technology at that time, which was the drones. And then the guy in the radar room, like a video game, was flying it. And all it did was spot, and it would make a 16-inch gun to be able to get within 6 inches of whatever the target was they were shooting. Another new technology that they had on Missouri was the Tomahawk missiles. Those things are really scary when you're close watching them take off. And then when it came time for the ship to come home, and since I was mobilized, I had the option of continuing my contract out or getting out completely. So I told them I'm getting out completely. I was out for 10 years, and then the towers went down. When the towers went down, I just went straight to recruiter. I said, you guys spent money and I've got skills. Yeah, put me back in. I said, but put me in the working Navy. And the recruiter says, we got a perfect place for you, 3rd Battalion, 24th Marines. My line of work, I was a corpsman. I did all medical in the hospital settings and in the battlefield. Iraq was totally different. That was an eye-opener. You know, being a corpsman, we had to always watch heat conditions, because if the humidity and the heat's at a certain stage, we've got these different flags that we put out for heat exhaustion. And if we have what's called black flag, that means nobody is going to work that day. They're going to train very, very lightly. And in Iraq, we got the black flag usually by 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Another big thing, in this country, if you say Muslim, first thing in everybody's mind is terrorist. Well, the true Muslims that you see over there, whenever you're in a firefight, if there's bullets flying and bombs going off, the true Muslims, they stop where they're at, they sit down, they start praying. While it's all going, they're not even running for their life. They just sit down and start praying. Same way at the schools. I did a lot of med caps. We'd go out to towns and we would visit physical exams on the kids and see some of the people that have some problems. And we had a rocket attack hit. You know, there's a school, and I'm like, come on kids, get to school. And they're like, oh, it'll be done in about 5 minutes. We're gonna stay out here and play. For them, that's an everyday thing. You know, war, since they grew up in it, they adapted to it. You know, while you're over there in Iraq, people send care packages. Well, they heard that we had women there, so they sent a bunch of women hygiene, and one of the things they sent was a box of tampons. You know, everybody's got a weapon over there. Well, my weapon's my med bag. At that time, I was flying on the Blackhawks and doing what's called a 9-line, which is ambulance calls, going out to do medevacs. And we got called into a hot zone. I had 3 guys down. Go to my first guy, I flip open my bag, and all these tampons go. And I got to look, and I said, bullet hole, tampon, applicator, wow. And it worked.
Wow.
So I went, when I flew into Baghdad, the surgeon in there was pissed. At least I thought he was. Who the hell did this? And I'm like, I did. This is great. And from then on, There's a company that makes, they're really tampons, but they're now medical for that reason, and they make it for the battlefield. The biggest thing the military teaches anybody, and it don't matter what branch, the biggest thing is it teaches a person responsibility in themselves. Like they say, when you go to boot camp, they tell you when to get up, they tell you how to get dressed, they tell you how to take care of your clothes and all. And those muscle memory things that they teach you from that point for the rest of your life stay with you. I think the military made me more of a leader up until, I'd say until I actually started running the Marines. I was a follower. And I really, at that time, I was making decisions, but I always had somebody to lean on to verify my decisions. Later, the military taught me it's better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission. Meaning, you got something you come up against, do it. And if something goes sour with the way you do it, well, then you'll learn from the experience and you won't do it again. Best part of my experience, well, just bringing my guys, getting my guys home. I can very successfully say that with the 3rd Battalion, 24th Marines, when I was with them, I didn't have anybody go home in a body bag. So I had a very good thing going there.